Our keynote speaker this evening is none other than the president of the Anguilla Civil Servants Association, Miss Susan Hodge. Literacy and numeracy training launched in collaboration with UNESCO and the Division of Public Education. The Minister of Education responded regarding the focus on proper policy. Former St. Lucia Governor-General Sir Neville Cenac dies. PM Pierre extends condolences. From the island, Sint Maarten, this is SXM Daily News for June 4th, 2026. Bakari Makiru, host of Unity and Solidarity TV. Our keynote speaker this evening is none other than the president of the Anguilla Civil Servants Association, Miss Susan Hodge. And her presentation this evening is entitled Caribbean Labor Union and Peace. Our beloved viewers have the opportunity to join the conversation and ask their burning questions or simply share their thoughts on the subject matter. So, they are all one family, so there is absolutely no reason to be shy. Susan Hodge is an English-born villain whose life and work reflect a deep commitment to service, resilience, and community development. She served in the Anguilla Public Service in various capacities for almost 40 years, recently retiring as Director of Disaster Management.
With that being said, it is my distinct pleasure to invite my comrade, Ms. Susan Hodge, to deliver her presentation on Caribbean labor and peace. Comrade, you have the floor.
Thank you, comrade. Good evening, comrades, colleagues, sisters, and brothers in labor. It is my pleasure to be your keynote speaker for the 2026 Patricia Pantafet Memorial Lecture. Sister Patsy was a strong trade union leader, a voice that still resonates in the region today. She was astute and powerful in her defense on promotion of the rights of workers. I had the pleasure of knowing Patsy personally and receiving her wise counsel on many occasions. This evening, I speak to you as part of a Caribbean labor movement with a long and proud history. When many people hear the words trade union, they think first of wages, increments, pensions, grievances, collective bargaining, and working conditions. Yes, those matters are essential. Workers cannot live on theory. Families cannot survive on slogans. A decent wage, safe working conditions, fair treatment, and social protection are the bread and butter foundation of trade union work. But Caribbean trade unionism has never been only about bread and butter issues. Our history of Caribbean labor is a people struggling to move from exploitation to dignity, from colonial subjection to self-determination, and from voiceless labor to organized power. Its genesis cannot be separated from slavery, emancipation, indentureship, plantation capitalism, colonial rule, and the long fight by working people to be recognized as human beings with rights. The Caribbean labor movement did not begin merely as an institution of wage bargaining. It emerged from a wider struggle for justice. It was shaped from the fight against colonialism, plantation exploitation, racial inequality, poverty wages, unsafe working conditions, and the denial of basic human dignity. Across the Caribbean, trade unions helped to awaken political consciousness, build national movements, and give ordinary working people a voice in shaping their own future. So when we speak on the theme Caribbean labor and peace, we are not stepping outside the role of labor. We are stepping into the fullness of it. Because labor is not only about the workplace, labor is about society, it's about democracy, about justice. Labor is about the right of Caribbean people to peacefully live, work, organize, and develop without domination. In today's Caribbean, peace and security should not be treated as abstract diplomatic issues. They are workers' issues. The Caribbean labor movement has helped maintain peace by turning anger into organization. In the 1930s, workers across the British Caribbean rose up against poverty wages, poor housing, unemployment, colonial neglect, and racial injustice. These uprisings could have produced deeper social breakdown, but trade unions helped convert unrest into structured collective bargaining. Political reform, labor legislation, adult suffrage, and wider democratic participation. In other words, unions became a peaceful pressure valve. Instead of workers having only riot, rebellion, or silence as options, trade unions gave them meetings, representation, negotiation, grievance procedures, strikes, mediation, arbitration, and public advocacy. That is a major contribution to social peace. The labor movement also helped build democracy. Across the Caribbean, many political parties and national leaders emerged out of labor struggles. This was not accidental. Workers understood that poor wages were connected to political power. If colonial governments and employers controlled the law, the land, and the economy, then workers needed representation beyond the workplace. Labor therefore helped move Caribbean societies from colonial rule toward greater self-government, constitutional development, and eventually independence in many territories. The movement also promoted peace through social dialogue, collective bargaining, tripartite consultation among government, employers and unions, and labor dispute resolution mechanisms helped to prevent conflict from escalating. The ILO's recent work on labor relations in Latin America and the Caribbean continues to emphasize social dialogue, collective bargaining, and dispute prevention mechanisms as central to stable labor relations. Caribbean trade unions also help maintain peace by defending fairness. Where workers feel exploited, ignored, underpaid, or unsafe, resentment grows. Where workers have voice and representation, societies are more stable. Unions, therefore, contribute to what we may call positive peace, not just the absence of violence, but the presence of justice, dignity, decent work, social protection, and democratic participation. Labor contributes to peace by standing in solidarity across the borders. The Caribbean labor tradition has long connected workers' rights in anti-colonialism, anti-racism, regionalism, and sovereignty. For example, historical work in the oil field workers' trade union in Trinidad and Tobago shows how trade unions used worker education and publications to raise consciousness about Caribbean political struggles, imperialism, and workers' rights.
MP Francisco La Cruz, but the question is about the budget. What I actually wanted to hear was what the consequences are. Not just, okay, we won't be able to hire in this department, but not being able to hire in this department would mean what? There's an uproar concerning the numbers and how things are going with education, but the government still chooses to cut the budget for Education.
But the question concerning the budget, what I actually wanted to hear was, what are the consequences, not just, okay, we won't be able to hire in this department, but not being able to hire in this department would mean what? There's an uproar concerning the numbers and how things are going with education, but the government still chooses to cut the budget from education. So what I would like to hear or see is, what are the consequences? Where are we going to be 1 year from today if the budget cuts that are planned for this ministry continue as planned? Where are we going to be next year? That was my question. Then maybe it's because I'm new to this, and when I say new to this, I mean concerning learning disorders. So we speak of ASD, ADHD, dyslexia, SPD. These are all things that have now fallen on my lap as a parent. Even though I've heard of these things from before, never really had to deal with it, but now have found myself in a situation where I'm thinking, where best to put a child that has one or more of these learning disorders. And I'd like to ask the minister, because I know that there are a lot of people out there that are struggling with these same questions that I am. And what is the plan of the ministry? Is there a plan? Do we have anything in place? And where are we going with it?
The Minister of Education responded to the Member of Parliament, "I can definitely understand the frustration that many others may have regarding the focus on proper policy."
Mr. Chairman, through you, while I can definitely understand the frustration that the MP and many others may have regarding the focus on proper policy and structure, I would like to state this. Shortcut governance has played a very large part in how we've come to this point. I firmly believe that a sense of urgency does not mean acting or moving in panic. There are many issues that have been exacerbated by a lack of proper policy or an attempt at rushing to a perceived solution that has actually done more damage than good. This is not my personal sentiment. In my management meetings at the start of my term, the recurring concern was that I would take decisions that would result in a delay of policy and legislation projects that have been pending for close to a decade. So that is a deviation, I think, at the request of the managers in my ministry, to try and respect the work that they are doing to put the proper structures in place to make sure that we don't end up back here in 10, 15, 20 years. And regarding the initiative mentioned by the MP of the Climb Foundation, I believe, the foundation has also contacted the entire government with their initiative on July 8th. They have been working on literacy and numeracy since prior to my tenure. And I believe the initiative on July 8th is more for Parliament and the Ministry to show support through participation than anything else. So we will be sharing our pictures of us dropping everything to read on July 8th. So I look forward to seeing Parliament's pictures as well. There are numerous literacy initiatives within our community, and I do commend them all for what they do, in particular with regards to adult literacy. Because if adults are not literate, we cannot expect students to be. The ministry will continue to show support to these initiatives, which I view as a complement to what is done internally at the ministry itself. Moving on to the question from MP Jansen-Webster regarding should we recommend to parents if they don't speak Dutch at home, but if they should send their child to an English-speaking school. Mr. Chairman, first, my apologies to MP Jansen-Webster for misunderstanding her earlier question, but I am glad that she got the answer through my further answers to other MPs. On the specific question of whether we should recommend to parents that if they don't speak Dutch at home, should they put their child in an English-speaking school? I would say, honestly, Mr. Chairman, it depends on the parent. I have attended primary school graduations where the best student in the Dutch stream came from a Chinese or Spanish-speaking home. This speaks to what I said earlier. It takes more than the ministry. Parental involvement and parental commitment to ensuring their child or children are high-performing students is critical to any reform plan, any project or any initiative that government or any entity starts. So unfortunately, I can't say yes or no. I really would say it depends on the parent or parents in question, the advice that anybody would give them with regards to where to place their student. And to the questions from MP La Cruz, the first question concerning the budget, what are the consequences? The MP wanted further clarification, not just that you're not able to hire, but what would that mean? So the flat-out question was, where will we be in a year if the budget cuts that are planned continue as planned? Mr. Chairman, through you to MP La Cruz, we will be in very much the same place we are now, a difficult one. The fiscal reality facing the Ministry of ECYS is just one portion of the larger challenge facing the country. We'll be in the same position of looking at where money could be found, and unfortunately, I'm not willing to continue the practice of finding it for one-off matters while long-term plans are then left behind. It will mean difficult decisions that will definitely not be popular, but that is the only way to actually move the needle on reform and strengthening our education system. And question 2, learning disorders and special needs. Where best to put a child that has one or more exceptionalities? What is the plan of the ministry? Do we have anything in place, and where are we going with it? Mr. Chairman, all schools, whether public or subsidized, make accommodations for students with exceptionalities. They all have care teams which have specialists to provide testing and interventions where needed, and in some cases, the Student Support Services Division may also be referred to provide the necessary support. In addition to this, the approved special needs policy makes accommodations for the funding of support for students with exceptionalities. The Ministry of ECYS is currently developing this funding mechanism, which is a part of the related roadmap. The related timeline for this will be included in the answers provided in writing. And with that, the other 2 questions I mentioned will be sent in writing, and I thank the members of Parliament for their questions. Thank you.
The Division of Public Education, in collaboration with the Sint Maarten National Commission for UNESCO, is pleased to announce the launch of a literacy and numeracy training initiative aimed at strengthening early childhood education across public schools. This professional development program is designed to equip kindergarten teachers, Cycle 1, Groups 1 and 2, with effective instructional strategies to support foundational learning in reading, writing, and mathematics, with a particular focus on kindergarten-level education. Training sessions commenced on May 20th, 2026, and are being held at the University of St. Martin from 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. The program will run from May to June and from August to September. The 6 scheduled sessions will provide ongoing opportunities for teacher development. The final session is scheduled for September 2nd, 2026. Upon completion of the program, participating teachers are expected to develop a deeper understanding of the foundational skills required for students entering kindergarten, strengthen instructional approaches for teaching early learners, gain access to updated teaching materials and resources to support early childhood instruction. Marcelia Henry, Secretary General for UNESCO, expressed appreciation for the collaborative efforts supporting the initiative. Recognition was also extended to Miranda Morris-Carty, Dutch Coordinator for the Division of Public Education Schools, for her leadership and coordination. Special acknowledgement was given to trainers Marva Sam Arundel and Juliana Hodge Shipley for their expertise and commitment to teacher development. UNESCO, through its participation program, was also recognized for funding the initiative, which continues to strengthen capacity within the education sector. This initiative represents a significant step in strengthening early childhood education. By investing in teacher training and instructional quality, the Division of Public Education and UNESCO aim to improve literacy and numeracy outcomes for young learners and build a strong educational foundation for future success. The Police Force of St. Martin, KPSM, is issuing a final call to owners of vehicles currently stored at the Philipsburg Police Station to come forward and claim their property. Owners who fail to do so risk having their vehicles permanently removed and disposed of in the near future. As part of KPSM's ongoing clean-up and hurricane preparedness campaign, efforts are underway to clear the backyard of the Philipsburg Police Station, where numerous scooters, motorcycles, cars, trucks, and other vehicles have been stored for extended periods. With the hurricane season now underway, these vehicles pose potential safety hazards and occupy valuable space needed for police operations. The police force of St. Martin, KPSM, is seeking the assistance of the public in locating a missing female, Evros Joseph, age 58, who has been reported missing under concerning circumstances. Ms. Joseph is described as being approximately 1.60 meters tall, with a heavy build and a dark brown complexion. She resides at Sucker Garden Road 111B. According to preliminary information, Ms. Joseph, who is known to be suffering from medical conditions, was last seen on Thursday of last week by her spouse while they were out shopping. During the outing, she reportedly walked away and did not return, and her whereabouts have remained unknown since that time. KPSM is urging anyone who may have seen Ms. Joseph or who may have information regarding her whereabouts to come forward immediately. Anyone with information is asked to contact KPSM Emergency Line +1 721 542 2222. Spouse T. Jean-Marie +1 721 587 4832. The police force of St. Martin continues its efforts to locate Ms. Joseph and ensure her safe return.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
The Hague. Curaçao's parliamentary delegation used the opening day of its visit to the Netherlands to focus on one of the island's most persistent challenges, the loss of young talent to overseas labour markets. Ahead of the Interparliamentary Kingdom Consultation, IPKO, members of Parliament met with representatives of NUFIC, the Dutch organisation specialising in the internationalisation of education. Discussions centered on the challenges faced by Curaçaoan students studying abroad, student mobility, higher education opportunities in the Netherlands, and the connection between education and the labour market. A major topic of discussion was the ongoing brain drain phenomenon, where many young Curaçaoans leave the island to pursue studies overseas and do not return after graduation. The issue has long been a concern for policymakers, as Curaçao continues to face shortages in several professional sectors while investing heavily in the education of its youth. The parliamentary delegation explored ways to strengthen ties between students abroad and opportunities on the island, as well as strategies to encourage graduates to return and contribute to Curaçao's economic and social development. The discussions took place before the official start of EPCO, where parliamentary delegations from Curaçao, Aruba, Sint Maarten, and the Netherlands meet twice annually to discuss matters affecting the kingdom. The Curaçao delegation is led by Parliament President Fagino Brownbill and includes representatives from MFK, PNP, PRR, and MAN PIN. Education is expected to remain one of the key topics during the official IPKO deliberations later this week. MP Ardwell Irian speaking on the Parliament International Services to work in St. Maarten, then we have to create our own. So the answer for the bank, saying we create enough room, because if there was enough, we would already be there. There are enough companies, whatever I was meant to say, I want to produce a mountain, but we can't get connected, so the answers are sufficient. Let me tell you why. Because every company that wants to participate in the digital payment platform atmosphere needs to be able to operate. And to operate well, needs to be able to connect to a commercial bank.
And in my other amendment that was shut down or not voted on, right, I said, okay, if we don't have the environment for Revolut or PayPal or any of these international services to work at St. Maarten, then we have to create our own. So the answer for the bank saying, oh, we create enough room, no, because if there was enough room, we would have had already. There's enough companies that came to St. Maarten while I was minister saying, I want to operate to St. Maarten, but we can't get connected. So the answer is not sufficient. And I can tell you why, because every company that wants to participate in the digital payment platform atmosphere needs to be able to operate good, needs to be able to connect to the commercial bank's APIs. So if you don't have access to the commercial bank APIs, right, you're not going to get an instant transaction. There's companies in Trinidad, Barbados, there's enough regional companies that do this already, but they don't have access because the bank's saying, hey, we want certain guardrails, and we don't trust these companies, and the company's saying, hey, we have our security. So the bank, which I'm referring to as the central bank, they have to establish the guardrails and say, hey, this is what we want. What do we need to be able to have these payment systems at St. Maarten? So again, I want to know from the government if they agree with my questions. Does the government own and believe that we deserve to have a payment platform on St. Maarten? If that's the case, and we cannot have PayPal and Revolut among others, then wouldn't it be an idea for then the central bank to create the parameters of which we can operate in to create our own, or create the proper parameters that allows all the other regional companies to properly participate in a proper payment system for St. Maarten. It cannot just be the central bank go to monitor and have oversight and no, 'cause it doesn't work now. It's like saying, and a lot of so-called capitalists say, no, the market will regulate itself, but it hasn't regulated itself. Otherwise, we would have had it already.
The Central Bank of Curaçao and Saint Martin, CBCS, says the process to appoint a new president is still ongoing and no candidate has been selected, despite a report in the Antillians Dagblad identifying Curaçao-born financial executive Ferenc Lamp as the leading candidate for the post. Responding to questions from the Daily Herald about the appointment process, the CBCS Supervisory Board said, "The process to fill the vacancies of both the Financial Economic Director and the President of the Centrale Bank van Curaçao and Saint Maarten, CBCS, is currently ongoing. As these procedures are still in progress, no comments can be provided regarding the status of the process or any potential candidates." CBCS added, "We appreciate your understanding and will communicate further once there are official updates to share." Finance Minister Marinka Gams also told the Daily Herald that the formal process has not been completed, no president has been selected, and she is not at liberty to disclose information while discussions are still ongoing. The responses came after the Antilles Dagblad on Monday reported that the governments of Curaçao and St. Martin were expected to discuss the future leadership of the CBCS as the institution prepares for a transition later this year. According to Antillians Dagblad, Curaçao Prime Minister Gilmar Pisas and St. Martin Prime Minister Dr. Luc Mercelina were scheduled to meet Monday to address several governance issues at the central bank, including the appointment of a new president. The newspaper reported that Ferenc Lamp is widely regarded as the leading candidate to succeed current CBCS President Richard Doornbos, who is scheduled to leave the central bank on September 1st after serving slightly more than 6 years in the position. Antillians Dagblad also reported that Doornbos is expected to join the Dutch Authority for the Financial Markets AFM, following his departure.
Now for the weather forecast, tonight through Friday midday. Fair to partly cloudy and hazy. Brief isolated showers are possible. Surface winds, tonight through Friday midday. East-southeasterly with a gentle to moderate breeze at 8 to 16 mph. State of the sea, slight to moderate waves and swells, 2 to 5 feet. Outlook through Saturday midday. Fair to partly cloudy with light haze and brief isolated showers. And now your 3-day forecast.
Savvy, your social and health insurance is Savvy, your social and health insurance.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Savvy, yeah, your social and health insurance.
St. Lucia Prime Minister Philip Pierre has extended condolences to the family of the late Sir Emmanuel Neville Sinac, former Governor-General of St. Lucia, who died on June 2, 2026. On behalf of the government and people of St. Lucia, the Prime Minister conveyed sympathies to Lady Julita Senac, the children and extended family, describing Sir Neville's decades of public service as a significant contribution to national life. Sir Neville's political career spanned more than 5 decades after entering public life in 1968. Over that period, he served in several senior positions, including Mayor of Castries, Parliamentary Representative for Labori, Leader of the Opposition, Minister for Foreign Affairs, President of the Senate, and Governor General from 2018 to 2021. In 2018, Senac was appointed Knight Grand Cross of the Order of St. Michael and St. George, GCMG, in the Special Honours List. In the same year, he was also appointed Grand Cross of the Order of St. Lucia, GCSL, in his capacity as Chancellor of the Order. Following consultations with the family, officials confirmed that Sir Neville will be accorded a state funeral in keeping with established protocol and in recognition of his service to St. Lucia. Sir Emmanuel Neville Senac, GCSL, GCMG, was a long-time member of the St. Lucia Labour Party, which he joined in 1968, and was the brother of former Prime Minister Winston Senac. Prime Minister Pierre said Sir Neville would be remembered as a dedicated public servant whose work helped shape the country's political and diplomatic institutions over several decades. This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.